God, David, would you rather have for their whole career, Griffey or Pujols?
God dang it.
I
James,
know,
why
this
do you
is a
do this
tough
to me?
one.
I saw this come up and I'm like, oh my. This is hard. Okay, so you got two different things, right? You got first baseman, you got center field. You got one of the greatest power hitting first baseman. He was a very good defensive first baseman too. Did not get as much credit for as good as he was defensively. Yes, they were better at the exact same time than him, but he was very good. He was Hall of very good defensively.
And let's not forget, played third base when he came up and played some outfield too. He had some versatility.
Versatility. Did he come up and maybe he wasn't 21 when he came up? Maybe he might have been a little older.
Here's the thing. If he wasn't 21 when he came up, let's say he was 26, that makes his last couple seasons when he was hitting 40 home runs or 35 home runs, he must have been like 45 or 50.
His last season, there was about 6 in between there that were really pretty brutal and really bad and injury laden and stuff. And anyways, the thing about it is I do look at some of his years and feel like he was he could his there was a range there when he was with the Angels where he kind of sucked, where he was back out really slow. He wasn't that great of a defensive player anymore, and he wasn't even remotely close to the same hitter. So sometimes I look at the numbers and go, wow, his numbers are still really good, and he sucked for a little bit, like really sucked. Griffey kind of sucked for a couple of years because he was like super bad injuries, and then he had a couple good years, and then he retired, right?
Yeah.
There was a 5 or 6 year stretch with Pujols where you're just like, this guy is a liability. He is a liability eating a contract. Yep. And he still had great numbers. So those bad years, now you have to look at those other years and go, they were amazing. If I had to take somebody's just plain numbers, I'm taking Albert Pujols. If I had to straight up and say, who would I rather have? You didn't show me the numbers. I'm taking Albert Pujols. But I am taking Ken Griffey Jr.'s career because of the versatility he gives me at center field. One of the premier positions on the field. I can find somebody who can give me lesser numbers at first base. And here's what it is. The average first baseman and average center fielder. Albert Pujols is not so crazy, is not as far above the average first baseman as Ken Griffey Jr. was above the average center fielder. And it's not even close. He was so far head and shoulders above what we had ever seen out of a center fielder in that generation. And that's the difference maker for me is I can find a 400 home run hitter at first base. I can find that and be happy, and he'll never make the Hall of Fame. To find a 400 home run hitter in center field that's an extremely short list, and like power hitting RBI machine, stolen base machine, defensive gem every single time he stepped on the field. So that's the thing about Ken Griffey Jr. It was the personality too, right? Albert Pujols had none. Griffey had all the personality. They called him the machine. They called him the kid, but it's the versatility at the position versus his competition.
So I want you to look at these numbers because it's pretty damn incredible when you look at so Pujols has almost 20 points more in WAR, 83.8 to 101.2. That's insane.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, but look at the games played, the difference. So 2671 for Griffey, 3080 for Pujols. So you're talking, and as far as plate appearance, almost 2,000 more for Pujols. So yeah, he has 73 more home runs than Junior, but he's got 2,000 more plate appearances. So he Junior probably would have caught up to 700 if he didn't have those 2,000 less. Griffey has more stolen bases than Pujols, 184 to 117. Batting average, OBP, slugging, OPS plus. Pujols crushes him in almost every category, but I think both of us would actually take Griffey's absolute peak more so than Pujols' absolute peak.
Yes. Well, I don't. It's to me, it's the position. is what separated it for me. Pujols' peak, Griffey's peak were very similar. The ability, what you did on the field, obviously Ken Jr. had so much more ability to run and cause havoc on the bases and the slide and everything.
Yeah.
And Pujols was the RBI double home run machine, just crazy machine. It was always, I never wanted to face either one of these guys. I got Pujols, and Pujols got me once. But it's the defensive position that just nobody could do that at that position in that generation. Nobody, and that's what separated. That's why Ken Griffey Jr. was so like looked at like differently versus a Pujols. Like, yeah, we've seen first basemen do this before, and in his generation, and in St. Louis, there had been a first baseman just right before him that did stuff like that, and that had probably more prolific career just because of the name Mark McGwire, right? So we'd seen that in that position right before him. And then it almost just felt like it carried on. We had never seen a center fielder like that for years and years and years and years and years. You had to go way back to the Willie Mays era before we'd seen a center fielder do what Junior had done. And then you get to some of those outfielders in that generation that were just incredible, in Mickey Mantle and those type of guys. So that's the difference for me.
So two things. I look at these numbers and all I think about is Judge versus Ohtani, because I think Griffey is more like Ohtani, where he could beat you with his legs. He could beat you with his power. He can beat you everywhere, where I think Pujols was more like Judge, where you're going to get a higher batting average and you're going to get more power on average throughout all the years. But at his best, you're going to have Griffey. Now
17.9 home run 17.9 plate appearances per home run for Junior. 18.5 plate appearances per home run for Pujols. So Junior was hitting a home run one at bat or like half an at bat sooner every single time in his career. And again, Junior had his injuries. When his injuries hit, they were bad injuries. When Pujols' injuries came, they weren't bad, but they were just nagging. And the thing too is, at the same time, his numbers started going down. Junior's was like injury, numbers down.
Yeah.
And Pujols was like, you were seeing it. I remember too, that contract when he signed it with Anaheim, that was a big controversial thing that people were like, guys, his numbers are not trending the right direction. They're going down. And people were kind of like whispering about it without screaming, because you didn't want to just say, hey, like multiple time MVP winner is going to suck here, but his numbers look like they're going to suck here. And then they did, and they sucked.
How is it that you had Pujols, Ohtani, and Trout, and you still couldn't win?
Exactly.
All right, my last question on this subject. When Pujols is elected into the Hall of Fame, because he hasn't been yet, Alex, is he obviously he's a first ballot? Will he get more votes than Junior?
No.
You don't think so? Now that they have the unanimous, now that unanimous glass ceiling has been broken, I don't think so either. But it's going to be interesting to see how many people don't vote for Pujols for whatever reason. Maybe because they think he lied. Maybe some people still think that he was a steroid guy. I personally don't.
I don't know about that. He played in a generation of testing. His entire career was in a generation of testing. So if he did it, he wasn't doing the big boys that the McGuires and Sosas and people have accused Sosa, McGuire's, Cansecos and Bonds and Clemens and stuff. So he would have been doing an HGH, testosterone type of stuff. Would have been different. At the same time, I mean, I saw him from the day one. I'm like, dude, this day one, to his last day, I saw his entire career. It was the same dude. He was the same. I think with him, it was like, a lot of people ask, like, there's no way this dude's 21. Like, this dude is, I've seen 21-year-olds. He looks like he's 26 and he's swinging like he's 30.
What was that movie with Rob Schneider?
Bench warmers. I am 12.
Bench warmers. Yeah. Pujols went to the team and he had a piece of paper with his picture on it. It says, I am 12, and gave it to the guy as his birth certificate. So less
votes from Griffey. Griffey just had, it's such a personality too thing, like media darling and stuff like that. But man, Albert Pujols is incredible. Best first base power hitter I'd ever seen, ever faced against.